Welcome, everyone. This morning, I have the privilege and honor of interviewing a storyteller from the Walker River Paiute tribe, Mr. Bobby Sanchez.
My name is Bobby Sanchez, member of the Walk River Paiute tribe. I'm 34 years old. I've lived here pretty much my whole life. Served a 2-year mission in the Kingdom of Tonga in the South Pacific Islands, where I learned their language and their culture. And in doing so, I gained a even stronger love and appreciation for my own cultures. I'm Mexican and also Native American, so I grew to love my own cultures even more because of learning a new culture and a new language. I also am a former council member and tribal chairman, and right now I'm a coach, the youth that we have here in our community and also surrounding community.
All right, Bobby, thank you for that. All right, okay, we're going to start with our questions.
Cool.
Question number one. Growing up on the Walker River Paiute Reservation, what is your earliest memory of a good oral story?
The earliest memory that I can think of a good storyteller or good storytelling is from my father. I can't even think of how young I was. It was probably about 3 or 4. I remember me and my siblings would wait for the opportunity to hear stories from my dad. It was like the suspense of, oh man, can't wait till he gets home. Can't wait till he gets home. Now he's home and we're bugging him. We want to hear stories. We want to hear stories. And I remember before he'd go to bed, we'd run to his room and just sit there and wait. And he'd come in and we'd be like, Dad, can you tell a story? Dad, can you tell us a story? He created his own stories, and they were not only good stories because they had interesting things and adventures, and there was always a lesson in the story. He was always teaching us a lesson, life lesson. Just thinking about it, it's bringing back floods of memories. The ones that stick out the most were about a native man named Wonkin Tonkin, and he was a native warrior, and he had all these different adventures. In a sense, it was like you were watching a TV series and seeing his adventures every week. So we would be sitting there listening, visualizing in our own imaginations what was going on. It was about a young Native American warrior named Wonkin Tonkin.
Question two. You are known by many of my own Walker River relatives here in Shures as a good storyteller. What makes a good storyteller?
In my opinion, a good storyteller is someone who can relate to their audience and be able to connect with them, knowing who their audience is, if it's an adult or a child, or even knowing what the audience likes are or what they're interested in. So that way, when you're telling the story, you can really connect your story to them, so it makes them feel like they're actually in the story. The best stories are where I felt like I was involved, where I felt like I was actually there, that I could actually see the scenery that is being described, that I could actually smell the different smells that are in the story, that I can feel and be there. Those are the stories that stick with me. And I think as a storyteller, you have to think of those things. You have to remember who your audience is and connect with them, and also make it so that they feel like they're actually there.
How do you think you became such a good storyteller? Who do you credit for helping you have this interest, being so good at telling stories?
I must have took the examples that my dad showed me and my siblings subconsciously, I guess, because I don't ever remember listening to his stories and writing notes down. I don't remember ever thinking, oh man, I want to be like that. No, I just remember listening to the stories and loving them.
You were also telling us me a story earlier about your high school experience.
When I was a junior in high school, instead of having English, we had writing. This teacher would always say, okay, we're going to write short stories. And then she'd come to me and tell me, oh, I'm so excited to hear your stories. I really enjoyed it because I would be able to create my own worlds, create characters, and I really like warriors. And so that's what I focused a lot on. Character creation is one of my favorite things, because you can take someone fake and make them feel like they're a real person. And then when you share those stories, they come to life. And again, I guess I took the examples of my dad.
When I go over to the house for scary stories, they started talking about Bobby. We should call Bobby. We should call Bobby to come over and tell some stories. So just having any of those relatives of mine who are awesome storytellers to be able to say your name as a good storyteller, I mean, that you're a good storyteller. All right, question number 3. What are the components of a good story?
I think a good story, again, goes back to the storyteller, and the storyteller, again, needs to connect with the audience so much that they could take a subject that's not interesting, or take something that, for example, me, there's certain things that I don't relate to, I don't connect with. So if I hear it, most likely I'm going to zone out and not pay attention, or I'll try to pay attention, but I won't remember it. But with a good storyteller, they can even make those things that aren't very interesting, or things that are boring, they can make them interesting, and connect and relate to the audience. I think it's important for a story to have sincerity, no matter what it's about.
What makes a good ghost story?
In my opinion, a good ghost story is true, because I've never heard a made up ghost story that made me feel intrigued, or want to hear more, or be totally focused on every word that was coming out of the storyteller's mouth. I think if it's a true story, you can feel it. You can feel the storyteller's words, even if it didn't happen to them and they heard the story from someone else. Just the way they're saying it, the way they're getting it across to you, you can feel it, and 100%, oh man, this is a true story, and these things happened, and makes you feel like you're on the edge of your seat. It makes you feel a little scared, makes you feel a little uneasy, but you want to hear more no matter what. It could be something that makes you not want to go home because it's dark, but you still want them to continue because it's that good.
The students in this lesson, it talks about the importance of oral tradition in our Native American Indigenous communities. In your opinion, why is storytelling so important? Why is it important for you? Why is it important for the community?
The importance of storytelling is vital, especially in our culture, where a lot of our history, a lot of our traditions, they're not written down, not all of them. It is vital to have those stories, not only with our culture, but also with our families. It's so important for our families to know stories about who we are, where we come from, and why we're here. It makes me think of my grandpa, hearing stories about my dad's dad, of how he came to America, and how he worked on the railroad, and how he worked hard and got his citizenship, and how he met my grandmother, how he worked so hard for his family and his country, and learning all these different things about my ancestors, and then being able to share that with my children, and them understanding who we are and where we came from, and to know the sacrifices that our ancestors went through to make sure that we have a better life. That's important for us to know, and that's important for our future to know, our children, for them to understand those things, and being able to share those things is very vital. Also, to be able to listen to other stories too, I think it's very important for us to realize that.
Finally, can you tell us one of your ghost stories?
This story happened while I was in Tonga, um, and there's 172 islands that are part of Tonga. Not all of them are inhabited, but um, this one happens to be a very, very small island. It's about 2 miles by 3 miles big, and there's 3 villages that are part of this island. Um, the one on the west is where there's a wharf where the boat comes once a month and brings goods to the people. And there's another village in the middle, and then one on the east. They're all about a mile apart because, like I said, it's a 2 mile by 3 miles. Um, there's this road that follows the island probably about 50 yards from the beach, and there's no electricity on this island. So at nighttime, you're walking in the dark, depending on how much light the moon brings. And sometimes the moon's not bright, so all you have is stars, and you hope the stars are shining bright so you can see your path while you're walking down this dirt road going village to village. On this road on both sides there's jungle, not as thick on the side where the beach is, but there's still jungle there. So anyways, while I was on this island, I had a companion who was Tongan, and I've been in the islands for about 6 months at this point. I had the language down pretty good, so I always enjoyed talking to my companion about different things, and that's what we would do when we'd walk from village to village. And so there was this one um, afternoon we were walking from the village on the far west going to the middle village because that's where our little hut was. And as we were walking, we were just chatting and talking, and I could hear hooves behind me, and I thought it was kind of odd, So I kept walking, but I turned back to see what was behind there, and there was this black goat that was behind us, following us. So I looked to my companion as we were walking, and I said, "Hey, there's a goat following us." And he listened, but he wasn't gonna look back. And I said, "Hey, it's a black goat." And once I said it was a black goat, he froze and got scared, and he said, "There's no such thing as black goats here. That's an evil spirit." And I started laughing because I thought he was trying to trick me, because we joke with each other all the time, and so I figured he was just trying to trick me and joke with me. And I said, "No, for real, there's a black goat behind us." He said, "Don't look back there. Let's keep walking. Let's not bother it." So I just kept walking. And as we're walking down this dirt road, you can hear the hooves behind you. And I kept looking back. Like, there's this black goat following us. I didn't feel like it was threatening or anything. I just thought it was odd. And uh, so I started playing with the goat, kind of, in the sense I'd zigzag, and I'd look at the goat, and it would zigzag. I'd walk and I'd stop, I'd walk and I'd stop, and the goat would do the same thing. And I was like, "Hey, watch what this goat does." And he said, "I told you, don't mess with the goat. Don't talk to the goat. Don't look at the goat. Just leave the goat alone. It's not a goat. It's an evil spirit." And I was like, "No, no, watch for real. Watch what it does." So he kind of was annoyed, but he stopped to look. And I said, "Okay, let's walk in a zigzag." So we walked in a zigzag. The goat walked in a zigzag. Okay, I said, "Okay, now let's walk and stop, walk and stop." We did that. The goat did it again. And he said, "Okay, it's not a goat. It's an evil spirit. Let's not mess with it." So I was like, "Okay, whatever, let's walk." So we kept walking. Like I said, it's about a mile walk to the next village. So we're just walking, and I could just hear that goat following us. And on this island, on the road on the side of the beach, there's different statues for different things. There's different people who came and did certain things for the people there, so they put up different statues for them. Um, right when you get to the street that goes to the other village, or not the street, the other road that goes to this other village, there's this big, huge cross that's on the side, and we just passed that cross, and the goat was probably about 10, 15 yards behind us, and we passed the cross not thinking anything, and the next thing we know, we hear this ugly sound coming from this goat. So we both turn around, and we see this black goat spinning around in circles, spinning around, and it's making this horrible sound. And then it stops and bolts it back to the other village on the far west. And I look at my companion, he looks at me, and he said, "I told you, don't mess with that." And still, at that point, I still did not believe, I thought he was still messing with me. So anyways, a couple months passed, and He leaves, and I get a new companion who is also a Tongan guy. And I never mentioned that happened because to me, I just thought it was a normal day. I didn't think anything. So there was this time we were leaving the West Village and going back to the Middle Village, and as we're walking, I hear these hooves, and I was like, "No way!" So I look back. There's that black goat. So I look at my companion. I was like, "Hey, hey, hey! There's a black goat following us." And then right when I said black goat, same thing. He froze up. He said, "Don't look back there. Don't talk to it. That's not a goat. That's an evil spirit." And I said, "No, no, no, no. This happened before." And then he looked at me like, "This happened before, and you're still doing this?" But I told him, "No, watch what he does." And I was like, "Oh man, goat, please do what you did last time. Otherwise, you're gonna make me look like a fool." And so I was like, "Let's zigzag." And I guarantee he'll zigzag. So we did that, and the goat did it. And my companion was, I don't think scared is the right word. He just was cautious. And he was like, "Let's not mess with this goat." And I was like, wait. Well, let's walk and let's stop. Let's walk and let's stop and watch what he does. So we did that, and he did the same thing. And he said, okay, that's enough. Let's walk. So kept walking. Totally forgot what happened at the cross until we were getting close to the cross, and I looked at my companion. I was like, "Oh man, something's gonna happen. Watch. Once we pass this cross, you're gonna see something weird's gonna happen." So same thing. We get past the cross, and then I'm waiting and waiting, and then I just hear this ugly sound, and this goat spinning around again, and bolts it back to the village to the west. And I look at my companion, waiting for like this. How'd you know that? But instead, it was, "Dude, we need to get out of here because that's not a goat. It's an evil spirit." And to me, I was like, how? It didn't connect. Maybe these guys are really telling me what's up because they're both scared, and they're both telling me the same thing. But to me, again, I think it's because I'm very interested in stuff like that. It's not like I go search for it, but when it happens, I want to know why. I want to know where it comes from and all that. So it intrigues me in a sense. So, anyways, a week or so pass, and we go to the village on the far east side, and we're over there, and we happen to be talking to this guy who owns like 60 white goats, and we're just talking with him and helping him and feeding his goats and whatnot. And I'm like, "Oh man, maybe it was one of his goats." So I start talking to this man, and I say, "Hey, were you ever missing a goat about a month ago, and then about 2 months ago? Because there was this goat that was following us from the village from the west, and it followed us all the way to the middle village, and then it ran back." He said, "No, I've never been missing a goat." I said, "Oh," I was like, "Well, it was a black goat." And once I said that, this Tongan man, you could see in his eyes, it wasn't fear, but it was cautious and seriousness. He said, "There's no such thing as black goats on this island." He said, "There's only white goats on this island. If you saw a black goat, it was an evil spirit." And at that point, I understood what was happening this whole time. That it wasn't just my two companions trying to pull a trick or joke on me, but I knew that there was um, something on this island, and it followed us twice, and everyone on the islands knew what it was, and I finally understood what it was also.
That was a great story, Bobby. Well,
Thank you.
that's it for the questions. I really appreciate your time, taking time out to do this. And I know it's going to help our students come up with a good story themselves. That anything they come up with, I'll be sure to share with you. But thanks for your time, Bobby.
Yep. Thank you.
I'm
Appreciate
going
it.
to start